welcome to another episode of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, where we prefer truth over narrative and principles over politics, with your favorite conservatarian contrarian, Jeff Charles. Now, you know what I've got for you. I've got another amazing conversation with another amazing guest, and we're going to talk about some maybe not so amazing topics, but that's okay. It's going to be a great conversation. So definitely gonna be excited about this. And before we get into everything, make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you share this video. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new interview. Also, remember that Liberty Nation is a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. Check out libertynation.com for all of your conservatarian news, original articles and analysis, videos, podcasts, Liberty Nation Radio, and their signature TV program, The Conservative Five, all on libertynation.com, where truth is making a comeback. Now, we all know what's been in the news lately. We've got a lot of Disney. We've got a lot of education news. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And this debate is not slowing down at all, and it probably won't anytime soon. Florida is always in the news, especially when it concerns education. So I thought it best to bring on everyone's favorite teacher, Miss Donique Rolle, who teaches here in Florida, to shed some light on this stuff. How you doing, sister girl?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing really well.
Thanks for bringing me back.
Yeah, glad to have you on again. I mean, I figure anything that involves education, probably going to reach out to you.
Yes, welcome. You new Floridian. How does it feel to be free? Well, you were in a free state before.
Yeah, I was already. People keep asking me that. I'm like, it doesn't feel any different.
Right, you were in a free state before.
Yeah. If I was coming from New York or California,
right. That would be a vast difference. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm already used to not having to wear masks everywhere I go, and all that jazz. But it's still great. I really like it here. I'm enjoying it, and it's fitting because I spent I was here like 4 or 5 times last year just doing my work stuff. Mm-hmm. So it just, I guess it's kind of a fortuitous that I'm living here now.
Yes.
But,
Welcome.
yeah, thank you. We'll have to get down to Orlando to visit you guys and Charisse and Mickey Mouse. Oh,
that would be fun. That would be fun. That would be exciting.
Now, before we get into all this heavy stuff, just for the people who don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I am Donique Rolle. I have been an educator for 16 years, a little bit over 16 years. I teach African-American history. I've only started teaching African-American. Well, this will be my 4th year teaching African-American history. Prior to that, I've taught intensive reading at a predominantly Black school, which I have been there for about 10 years. But prior to that, I've been to a couple of different schools that was very mixed, one majority white. People think it's so funny because anytime I talk about the Black experience and people, well, at least the people on the left kind of shut me down. They're like, well, you teach at a Black school. That's why you have so much freedom. I'm like, I didn't always teach at a Black school. I've been teaching for 16 years, but it's great to be an educator. It's very interesting in this time of age of being an educator. Everybody seems to be worried about what's happening in education, except for teachers. So, which is really interesting. Everyone's so just out of their mind about the bill, again, except for teachers. I also have a nonprofit organization for special needs families. I started it because my son was diagnosed at the age of 3. And so I wanted to give back and help other families to kind of navigate their way through autism. I sort of kind of figured it out. So I feel like it's my passion and my mission to help other families as well.
Awesome. Great. And also before we get into everything, because I'm curious about this, how did you get into teaching African-American history 4 years ago?
So my former principal, who is a white gay liberal,
all right.
wanted to bring the course to school. I teach at a historic African-American school, and he thought it was important. And one of the things he said, I really want students to be inspired. I want them to be proud of where they came from, to understand that history, to motivate them to make a difference in their community. So that was his objective. And I was like, I am the person for you. I would do it happily, and I will, hope to do it justice. So, and then when I started teaching it, it became like his objectives sort of changed. So, which was really, really interesting. He was wanting to be more of lessons about Kendi and, people like that. So I'm like, no, we're going to talk about a variety of African Americans, not just Kendi and Angela Davis. So it's really interesting. So, but I love it. I love it.
Good. So there's been some laws that were passed recently that are very controversial.
Yes.
And one of the things about the whole conversation is that not only is it controversial, it can be kind of complex. Whether we're talking about critical race theory or sexual orientation or gender identity, a lot of this stuff, it's not as simple as it seems. And I think a lot of people, even on both sides of the argument, don't really understand, what these laws are saying, what they would do, what they won't do, whether they'll actually work, what critical race theory is and isn't. I mean, it runs the gamut. So I just noticed that there's a lot of confusion. So hopefully with this, we'll be able to kind of make it a little bit easier for people to understand.
Yes.
But yeah, I would like to start with the Stop Woke Act. And Governor DeSantis just signed that into law last week. I can't remember which day, but I mean there was a big fuss about that. And essentially what that's intended to do is to limit the teaching of history in a way that promotes a certain agenda rather than just teaching the history. Now, a lot of people are saying this is about not teaching America's true history. Actually, let's start there. For the people who say that these laws, let's just go with this one specific law, because I know there's other states that have similar laws. But does this law limit the teaching of America's history, especially when it concerns the bad and the ugly?
It does not limit Black history at all. And actually, it says to add more, and he wants it to be taught in an authentic way. He wants every part, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was just really excited and a bit surprised of how much he emphasized that he wanted all taught. And so when people say things like, oh, they just don't want Black history taught, I'm like, the bill literally says teach Black history, teach all of it. The only thing is he doesn't want teachers to set out to make students feel guilty. So I think people have take issues with that. But definitely the bill does not limit the teaching of Black history at all.
Okay. Now, what I thought was interesting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, the bill doesn't necessarily mention critical race theory by name.
No.
But it does mention, and this is kind of where we get into a little bit of vague language, but teaching that is designed to make certain students feel uncomfortable. Now, they always say this is to make white students not feel comfortable, which I think a lot of it is. But at the same time, there might be Black parents who are uncomfortable with the idea of a teacher telling them that they can't succeed because America is too racist. So I can see how it could be applied in that aspect as well. But to be fair, this is probably most of these teachings are designed to, in my opinion, play on white guilt.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's designed to even engender white guilt in small children so that they grow up as a small kid feeling white guilt. I could do a whole episode on that. I just might.
Yeah,
but
white guilt. Yep.
So what exactly does it actually say teachers can't teach or instruct in the classroom when it concerns race?
It just says that you can't identify one race as the oppressor and one race as the oppressed. You can't blame the current day students for problems in the past. So that's basically what it says in a nutshell. It doesn't say you can't teach anything. It just says you can't blame or just call one group an oppressor and that the other group is oppressed. You can't say those terms. You can't hint to in any aspect of that to modern day. And I think people get confused because they're saying, well, how are we going to teach Jim Crow? He literally just said, teach all parts of Black history. He is talking about current students. You cannot tell them that they are responsible for. Then that's actually what the bill says. You can't tell them they are responsible for the past, which I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure why people are ignoring the fact that he says that you can teach all of Black history. So people keep just limiting that. They're like, oh, you can't teach. It was a teacher online. He said, well, why I wouldn't be able to teach Jim Crow. I'm like, really? Why wouldn't you? The bill literally, and you're not even in Florida. So you're in a blue state. So if you're not teaching about Jim Crow in the blue state, you need to take that up with your blue mayor, your blue governor. So I don't know what to tell you.
So in my estimation, there are two types of people with this law and even others. Those who just didn't read it and believe what the media says, and those who are just straight up lying about it. I mean,
he's totally lying. He's totally lying. Like, totally. Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't read these bills, and I know that the media that they consume lies to them about it. So
right.
But some people you can tell, like they know better, but they're just trying to make the law sound as bad as possible.
Yeah, I had to mute my mentions yesterday because someone tweeted the same thing about, he was from the Jim Crow era, and he mentioned that, will I not be able to share my story that I was denied access to the University of Florida, or I believe it was that school. And I'm like, so why wouldn't you? And then what would be your objective? Oh, why did I ask a question? Because people on the timeline, they were just like, how dare you ask that question? You know what he means. No, I don't. They're like, you should have him speak. I'm like, I would love to have him speak, but just like I do every other speaker, I give them the objective. This is the objective for my class. Can you meet this objective? So why can I not ask him what his objective for wanting to share that story? I didn't think it was a controversial question, but you should have seen the backlash. Like, I had to mute it because I'm like, I can't, it's too much. So.
Well, I mean, people get sensitive about it. Like if you even question the narrative, or even if you're not questioning it, if you're just, wanting to know more.
Yeah, I had no ulterior motives. I just wanted to know what would be the objective of you sharing that. Like, are you just want to share your story? Like, what? Because just looking at his timeline, it just seemed like a pity party. It didn't seem like, oh, I want to share my story and just however it came. None of that. His entire timeline is, will I not be able to share this? Will I not be able to share that? So, okay, so what is your objective exactly? Because I did read your timeline, and it was a pity party.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a fair question.
Well, it is with a lot of these folks. So what would be an example? Like, let's say you were a teacher who was going to violate this law. What kind of lesson would you teach? Like if you pick something from history, how would you teach something that would actually violate the Stop Woke Act?
Without violating what's in the Stop Woke Act?
No, with violating it. Like you're going to do the thing that the law says not to do.
Oh.
Like, what would that be an example of?
What would it look like? Wow. So it's interesting that you asked me that, because I'm so trained to think around it, because I know that's another conversation. So it would look like you are literally telling students, your ancestors, just saying your instead of slave owners, or, not even white Southerners during the Jim Crow era. So it would just be white people are doing this, or your ancestors have oppressed Black people now. Black people are still oppressed because of the situation, the laws that are happening right now. So it would be something along that line. Like I said, it's hard to even think outside of the box of what that actually look, because I don't do it. So I know it when I hear it. And I've heard a lot of crazy talks, just, the libs for TikTok. So that to me is the most, are all the things you cannot do.
I see. So maybe something like teaching, like specifically white children, because you say that, if you are part of the dominant class, or if you're part of whiteness, which is already a problematic issue, then you are if you're not fighting racism the way we say, then you are contributing as a white person to the system of white supremacy. I would think that would be a teaching
right.
that the Stop Woke Act was outlawed.
Yes. And
Yeah.
also doing the privilege test to elementary school students, because I've actually seen a teacher use that. So I don't think that can be used now with that law, just everyone taking a privilege test. So I think that would certainly violate, because the privilege test does say oppressor, or you're in the oppressor group if you're this, you're in the oppressed group if you do that. So I think that would definitely violate law.
Yeah, and it kind of gets into like a sticky area because a lot of these laws say, you know, that would make certain kids feel uncomfortable. Well, what does discomfort mean? What does uncomfortable mean? Because
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of our history people should be uncomfortable with, right? I
Yes.
mean, when you learn
Very.
about slavery, you shouldn't be comfortable with that. I remember feeling uncomfortable,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I guess there's a difference between having it be discomfort because of how nasty that history was, or being
Hmm.
uncomfortable because the teacher is teaching it in a way that is designed to make somebody feel uncomfortable or guilty for something that they didn't do. But
Right.
then that's kind of a fine line. But I guess really what it does is it allows parents to file lawsuits, right? So I guess that stuff would have to get worked out in court.
Yes, it's certainly a fine line. So I actually had issues with the verbiage. I don't like the verbiage of certain parts of the bill. I don't like um, the uncomfortable, like, because what is, to me, what does that mean? And it's subjective.
It is.
Um,
It is.
so like you mentioned, there are certain parts of history that are simply uncomfortable. So if a student says that I am uncomfortable with this lesson, okay, so what's going to happen? Like, how is that going to be proven that the teacher purposely made me feel uncomfortable? That is, it's going to be really hard to prove. So people were like, oh, it's going to be a lot of lawsuits. Okay, fine. But to me, that particular part of the bill, that is going to be hard to prove. And the teacher will win. Because again, how do you prove that I made you on purpose feel uncomfortable? There's
Exactly.
nothing in writing.
Yeah.
You, now it's your word against mine.
Yeah,
And then
or is it something that you're teaching that you should have known was going over the top, but you did it anyway? Which that might be possible, but again, that's not easy to prove.
right, right. It will be very difficult to prove, because again, history is uncomfortable. And I remember being one of the only Black students in the class. Anytime they talked about slavery, I was extremely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
More uncomfortable with the teacher looking at me as she's talking about slavery, because I know and she wanted, and I don't think she did it out of a mean heart or mean spirit.
Right.
I think she wanted me to engage, because I was the only Black student in the room. So I guess she felt like I had something to
Yeah, you
add.
represent all Black people now.
I represent all Black people, and this is the 90s. So, and that was very big, and, told to me and told to so many other people. But I just think that it would be, I stopped being so bothered with it, because I'm like, it's just going to be something very difficult to prove, unless it's something just blatant. Then that would make a case. So I kind of like, okay, I'm not gonna, it's not a big deal. I don't love the verbiage, but it honestly, it's not a big deal. And I think that I don't think there may be people threatening to sue, but I can tell you, unless it's hardcore evidence, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah,
And
so
teachers know that.
that's that.
And let me just say one thing. I tweeted this once, and people didn't know what I was talking about. The bill being vague, or certain bills being vague, it actually benefits both the teacher and the parents. It does. It absolutely, not in a great way, but I was telling this to a parent, a friend of mine. I said, because she was complaining about the vagueness of the bill. I said, yeah, I know you're upset, because she was worried about teachers, and I'm like, that benefits teachers. So I don't know if DeSantis realized that, but he did teachers almost a favor, because again, because it's vague, teachers can say, I don't know. This is what I thought. It's just this ongoing. This is what I thought. This is what you thought. I didn't mean it this way. So again, how are you going to prove intent?
I would imagine that you would just have to go full Sean King or full Kendi for a parent to have a successful lawsuit, because
Yes.
there are different ways around that. And so here's my question. I think I just answered it, but still, I want you to answer it. You said earlier that teachers are not worried about any of this stuff. Why are they not worried? Because on Twitter, I'm saying that, oh, I don't know what to teach. I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. But like, because some of them I'm sure are actually afraid or whatever. Maybe we'll see what the other laws in other states. In general, though, I'm not surprised to hear you say that most teachers aren't worried about this. Why is that?
Okay, so here's the honest truth of why teachers in Florida, I can't speak for the other ones, aren't worried, because we are literally in secret meetings. They're giving us different vocabulary to work our way around the bill. They are teaching us how to, okay, so you can't say white supremacy, you can't say systemic racism, but you can say structural racism. So you can't say white supremacy, but you can say white racist, or just they give us a bunch of different verbiage to use. And they just change name. Like, okay, so everyone's freaked out about SEL. Okay, let's call it behavior something, behavior adaptation. So there is just a ton of things that they told us to reword. So it's sickening, but it's actually kind of genius. I was like, wow, like this is what they're doing to get around the bill. Does DeSantis know this? And does he have a plan B? Because honestly, I was listening to a teacher today. I promise you, if my child was in her room, I would pull her out, because when you talk about serious, and she was literally basically just telling her students that you are oppressed and there is nothing you can do about it. It's just, and just comparing slavery and football together. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, how is she able to get away with this? But she is very careful, because if you look at her objective on the board, it is just, you would never know that's what she's doing. And I saw what the students were writing.
To know that she's teaching.
Yeah. And I saw what the students were writing. She will, if a parent would try to take her to court, they will lose, because if you look at her objective and you look at what she have written, completely different to what she's saying, completely different. So it was like some serious, like, it was something today. Her question was something about how is slavery affecting us now? What are the effects of slavery right now? And I was like, you cannot tell me that you had an objective lesson. You know what I mean? Like, maybe a question can be, is it affecting? I don't know. I just don't know how you can work around that, because she very much likes to compare slavery to what is happening right now.
Right.
So, and she will not, I promise you, just the way she have her stuff worded on paper is, you will not have evidence unless you're videotaping her from the beginning to end, maybe. But she can deny that wasn't a full recording. So there's just, unfortunately, so many different ways you can work around this bill. So that is why teachers aren't worried. We just are not worried in Florida.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the meetings, does this involve members of the administration, or is it district, or is it just amongst teachers, or everybody, or?
No, it's district. It's district. Yeah. I don't know how much the principal and the administration knows, to be honest. I really don't, because they're not in these meetings. Genius.
That's interesting.
Convenient.
I'm
not
not
in the meetings.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I just wrote an article, and this was about, what state was this in? Oh, it was in California, of course. And there was an issue where, and we'll get to more of this later, but this teacher wanted to teach about sexual orientation to 8-year-old kids or 7-year-old kids. And when this got out, parents wanted to pull their kids from that lesson. And so through a FOIA request, they found an email exchange between this teacher and officials in the district where they were collaborating on how they could teach this stuff without parents knowing. So it doesn't surprise me that in Florida, that these meetings are happening, or that there's this collusion. It's probably happening in other states too. So, I'm sorry. Did you watch that video that I sent you from Accuracy in Media?
I did.
You did? Same thing. They find ways around it. And it's very easy. Like, I could do it. I'm not even a teacher, and I could figure out how to get around that.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest flaws with a lot of these laws. They're just really, and honestly, I don't think there's really anything DeSantis can do about it. He's too far removed from the situation. If it's going to be handled, it would probably have to be handled more at the local level. Because there's no law that's going to catch enough of this stuff to really make a difference. I mean, it may stop some teachers from injecting this type of ideology into their classrooms, but in general, I mean, all you got to do is just duck and dodge a bit.
Right, that is true. There's just a ton of ways around it. So it's pretty interesting. So I appreciate the people that feel like say that they're fighting, and they really are trying. And so many parents, they don't want their children to be indoctrinated, which of course, who does? And they're really fighting and they're really trying. And I feel bad because I just feel like this is just an endless, no solution to the situation. It really isn't. There were okay, so you find out we're saying structural racism. Then you say we can't say that. They'll just find something else.
I mean, there are like a billion different ways to say systemic or structural racism.
Oh,
so
yes.
Do you think that they're going to, at the state level, do you think that they're going to do more? Or do you think that this is it? Or
right. Yeah.
Do you think they're going to pass more legislation, or do you think that's the Stop Woke Act is really all they can do?
I mean, how much more can you pass? I don't know. I think that DeSantis, I think that they feel like this is going to do it, the Stop Woke Act. I feel like they really believe that. So they may stop there, and they may feel like there's some progress if some teachers are being questioned or being suspended or being investigated. Unfortunately, I feel like they would think that's a win because teachers are being investigated, or like if a parent complains and they're being investigated, I feel like they will look at that as a victory. And to me, it's not. Teachers get investigated all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and I know it's also supposed to apply to corporations, but the same principle applies. I mean, there are ways around it. So there may be a few lawsuits here and there that succeed, and I wouldn't imagine that there would be a lot of them. And I'm not necessarily against the law, but at the same time, I think we need to take a sober look at this and put it into perspective. This cannot be the end all be all. And even from the beginning, last year when they were first talking about this, Texas and other states like, oh, we're going to pass these laws to stop elements of critical race theory from being taught in the classroom. I'm like, that's not the answer. Like, I mean, if you want to pass those laws, that's fine, but it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. And honestly, a lot of it just felt like what I call feel-good legislation. When they pass it, it makes us feel good because it makes it look like they're actually doing something when they're really not. And in reality, they really can't. Like, it's really not fair to expect DeSantis or other governors to be able to do something about it because they really, I mean, no matter what they pass, they'd have to really I don't know what they could possibly do to stop it because they're not close to the situation.
Right.
So to me, it's like, we as conservatives, we need to look at this and say, okay, they passed that law, but the battle isn't over, because if we do that, then our kids are going to be indoctrinated, right?
Right. Yeah. I really wish that he would have a sit down with teachers, because it does feel like, so I can see from both sides, as a conservative, as a teacher, as a mom, I can see from all sides. So just listening to the teachers, it feels like it's teachers versus parents, and that he's on the side of the parents, and then there's no voice for teachers. And I tweeted something about where the teacher voice is all of this, because I am a supporter of DeSantis. I appreciate him, and I think he's a great governor, and I will vote for him again. But he's not above criticism. And I think people need to realize that you should critique the people that you like. Why are you just going to go with everything they say? You should question. So it does feel like he is against teachers. That's how many, not conservative teachers, but I understand that when I hear them talk, because I get it, because he doesn't bring in a variety of teacher voices just to hear what is happening in the classroom. And so I think that he should listen, especially if he want to get that teacher vote.
Yeah. I mean, and I can see how people might perceive it that way. I mean, and I don't think that that's his intention, because I'm
right.
Sure
no, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I'm sure that he knows that most teachers are trying to do the best they can, and they're trying to teach it in the best way they know how.
Right.
And they might have legitimate concerns, but if he's really worried about the indoctrination, then he does need to talk about. But again, even if he does, I don't think there's much he can do about it. Like what do
Yeah.
you like? What would you say in Florida would a local community be able to do about this type of teaching that DeSantis can't?
What would they? Who the? You said the local.
Well, let's say in Orlando. Let's say we're all in Orlando and there's a bunch of teachers teaching this stuff and we want to stop it. I mean, at the local level. I mean, obviously there's a school board and stuff like that. What would be done in order to address that?
What to address the indoctrination that's happening or the bill?
Yeah.
So I think what they should do, even as a district level, they should pull in the administrators, set teachers to see what is really happening in the classroom. If they're worried about indoctrination, or if they're saying if they don't get it, I think they should hear what the teachers are saying. And I don't think teachers think that that is what they are doing. But I think the more they talk and the more they sit down to these lessons, and also just come in and visit the classrooms. We do that. They come in and they see what's happening in the classroom. And maybe some of them can specifically kind of keep their eye open for that, because we do get walkthroughs from districts all the time, but they have a certain objective and they're just making sure that you are doing whatever your objective, whatever your goal is, and making sure that students are comprehending and understanding what you're doing. So maybe they can have kind of a twofold. Someone's kind of looking out for that and the other objective as well.
That makes sense. I mean, especially because, and I do suspect that a lot of the teachers who are teaching elements of CRT don't really know that they're teaching it, because, like I said, I think a lot of people on both sides of this debate don't really know what it is, so they don't even know what to look for. But it would sound like that would be something that parents would have to push the school board to sort of mandate, right? Like they would have to be able to say, "Hey, school board, if you want to stay in your office, then we've been hearing all these reports about what's going on with some of these teachers in this district. You better do something about it."
Right.
I would think that the school board would be able to take better action and to facilitate change than somebody in the governor's mansion or even in the state legislature.
Yes, absolutely. Especially if parents are involved. Parents come all the time, and they they listen to the parents for the most part. Parents have influenced both sides, the left and the right. They were able to make some type of change just by going to these meetings and having conversations with them. And I think certainly it should definitely be more of that.
Awesome. I think so too. I mean, it just seems like the answer to a lot of these things, just like with a lot of other issues, is to focus on local and see what your local government is doing. So I want to move on to the parental rights and education law. But before I do that, just want to remind everybody to head on over to libertynation.com, a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective, where you can get all of the latest cutting edge conservative news and analysis with none of that superficial spin, but all of the nuance and all of the insight. When you go to libertynation.com, not only will you read my brilliance, but also the brilliance of my colleagues. And you know me, we don't just do the superficial talking points. You're going to get a deep dive analysis on the issues of the day that matter to you. So head on over to libertynation.com, where truth is making a comeback. So let's talk about the Parental Rights and Education Bill, aka the Don't Say Gay Bill.
Don't say gay bill.
And it's funny because this kind of actually proves something that I predicted last year. The sexuality issue and the gender issue, I predicted that it was going to become even more controversial and more of a fiery debate, even than critical race theory. It seems like the CRT stuff has kind of taken a back seat to a lot of this sexuality stuff that's going on right now.
That is true. Yeah, I barely hear anything about CRT. Barely. Right? So now it's about the sexuality and the sexual orientation and gender. So that's another thing that people, and actually I would say teachers are kind of in a panic about that one, because I'm a part of several teacher groups on social media and in real life. So they are worried. Their biggest worry is that they may not they're not going to be able to have conversations with their LGBTQ kids. I'm like, are you even having those conversations now? Like, seriously? Because but at first I was like, but first of all, there's sexuality is not in our curriculum. It's not a part of our standards at all.
Okay.
But and I initially thought the law was crazy. Like, why are you going to have a law? Like, no one's doing that. But then I started listening to teachers, and it got me wondering, are you talking to kindergartners? Because they were so adamant about why they can't. And so I'm wondering, it made me wonder, like, are you talking to 6-year-olds about sexual orientation? Is that what's happening? Because you're very adamant about wanting to do this, like you're fighting to do this. And so that just made me say, okay, you know what, this bill might be needed, because I'm hearing too many teachers fight against this, saying that it should be taught in school.
You know, that makes sense, because if I were a teacher and I weren't talking about this stuff, I wouldn't really care about the law. If I was a teacher,
Right.
if I didn't know anybody who was, okay, I mean, I might even say, yeah, it's useless, but whatever, it's not going to affect me.
Exactly.
But, and I
keep saying, why are you so worried about it if that's not what you're doing? It was one teacher, he said he's married to a guy, and he said, now I won't be able to share with my kindergartners what my husband and I did on vacation. And what if they ask, what is a partner? Like, why are you having those? And I get kids are nosy. Kids ask questions. They do. And in high school, I used to have my picture of my family on my desk, but the students would ask crazy questions. So I took it off. And so I'm like, why do you have to go down a rabbit hole? Just say, I went on vacation with my family. Because you have a son, you have a husband. Why is that a big deal? Just say that. Because I'm not saying, oh, I went on a vacation with my husband and my son. I don't say that. I just say I went on a vacation with my family. That's what I would say. So you don't have to go down a rabbit hole. So, and then another teacher said, well, what if they ask, why does such and so have 2 mommies? And they were so upset about this. And my explanation was, why can't you just say all families look different? The end.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing everybody say on the right. They're saying, I mean, the thing is, the problem, and I was going to ask you, and I knew that I was going to get this answer. I was going to say, I bet teachers aren't, cavalier about this one, because for the ones that actually want to teach this stuff, there's no way around that. Like, you can't teach it in a way without teaching it. Like, you have to say certain things.
Right.
But to me, it's like the law says there won't be any instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity. So instruction implies you are actually teaching a lesson on it.
Right.
So if you say if a teacher is gay and he went to see the Batman with his husband last weekend, and he says, you know what, I went with my partner to see, or with my family to see the Batman, that's not instruction.
Right. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It may be a mention, but there's a difference between doing that and saying, by the way, my husband and I are gay, and this is what that means, young children, and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Or if the teacher is straight and has a wife and says, yeah, I have a wife because I'm straight, and here's what that means, kids. That means that I don't do this.
Right.
There's a huge difference between instruction and mentioning something. And I think
what you just described is instruction. Right. This is what that is, and explaining. Yeah. And so that's been the controversy too, because some people were saying, well, it's instruction or curriculum. It wasn't defined, because I was on another show, and this particular congresswoman, she was working on the bill. Also, she's far left.
Don't be humble. You were on Fox Soul with Tammy Mack.
Yes. Fox Soul, yes, with Tammy Mack.
And you killed it.
She was on the floor, and she was so the bill is horrible, and they couldn't define instruction and curriculum. I'm like, teachers know what curriculum and instruction is. We know that. We know the difference between having a conversation and instruction. So I'm not sure why teachers are playing this game. I feel like they know, that you don't have to go down a rabbit hole. Some teachers are, and I have seen this with my own eyes, that they are saying, they are literally doing exactly what you did. I am bisexual, and this is what that means. I am non-binary, and this is what that means. That is instruction. So they are literally doing, and they're not, from what the teachers that I've seen are not from Florida. They're from other states, and apparently in some blue states that is allowed. But I think that's ridiculous. Just as if a straight person would say, this is what that means. This is how you make a baby. That's not my place. Go ask your mom.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, and the thing is, and it's funny because with this argument on the other side, they're saying, oh, well, that's not really happening. Okay, but then there's a reason why Libs of TikTok is
it shouldn't be a big deal. Right.
Yeah,
and that's what I told
that it is happening.
Right. And that's what I told the congresswoman. And then she kept saying, oh, it shouldn't be allowed. Okay, well, it's not. So why are you upset? Like, do you want it to be taught? No, I don't. But then why are you so upset? So they do feel like that the bill is targeting gay people. Like, the bill doesn't say anything about gay people. Says sexuality, gender. That's not directed towards gay people. Like, gender is it's straight, is heterosexual, is binary, non-binary, is gay, is everything. So it's not targeted towards gay people. But
and they're saying, this is supposed to attack the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
I guarantee you, if a female teacher goes into her classroom and says to her 7-year-old students, man, I was with my husband last night and I put it down on him, I guarantee you that teacher is getting sued.
Exactly. You cannot do that. But so in high school,
sorry, I'm just getting that mental picture of a
teacher. No, I get it. But you're laughing about saying that, but I know too many stories. I'll just say that, because in high school, our students come back and tell us, like, if you're talking about, like, this one teacher, I know her story. I know she has a boyfriend. I know when she goes out on dates. Why do I know that? Why do you know that, 16-year-old? And so they'll come and tell, like, if they like you, so they'll tell you, oh, such and such has a boyfriend. She went out on a date. They're having problems. Why are you discussing your love life with a 15-year-old? That happens in high school.
Wow.
There's so many stories. And at first I was like, I didn't believe a student when she said that, but then when you have several students come to you and say the same thing,
it's true.
So I'm like, teacher, what are you doing? That you are not friends with her. She is not your peer. And in high school, I'm an expert in high school. And so I get that. The kids are nosy. They will ask you personal questions. They will. So this is what I tell them. Touch your nose. Touch your nose. It's not your business. You don't get to ask me. I mean, they ask personal questions.
But it shouldn't be so hard to shut it down. Like, that's what I don't get. I'm sure most teachers
to me, it's simple. I say, touch your nose. Go sit down. We're not friends. Like, my first year that I taught at this particular school, they swore we were friends because we were friendly and they liked me. So so I had to have a conversation because the questions became too personal and this is where I had a picture of my husband and my son. It just became too personal. And I was like, I wasn't used to that because then it didn't happen at my other school. So I had to shut it down and I had to have a group discussion to let them know, we are not friends. I am your teacher. And they were like, literally their feelings were hurt. Wow. So I'm like, I don't know what kind of relationship you have with your other teachers, but we are not peers. I have friends.
Well, I mean, it's about boundaries. And so,
boundaries, yes.
It really does go back to what you said earlier, Donique. Like, if they're so upset about it, why? And to me, it's like, they'll take our position to a place that it doesn't even go to in the law. Like, that's why they said don't say gay in the first place. The law doesn't say that, and nobody's saying that. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. You don't need to.
My friend yesterday, she said, why is it called that? They should change the name. I'm like, it is not called that.
Right. Yes. Well, that tells me that they were very clever in their marketing. Although polling does show that even Democratic voters support the law.
Yeah.
So they weren't that great at it. But to me, it's like, so let me ask you this then. What do you think of the whole groomer conversation? Because I have some mixed feelings on it. And I was actually using that word before it was cool. Like, I wrote an article talking about state-sponsored grooming, but I had a very specific meaning with that. So what do you think of the whole, okay groomer thing? Or, should we be saying that? Or should we not be saying it as liberally? Or how do you see that whole thing?
About grooming, I've seen you got some flack about saying grooming. I think some of it is. Because why do you want to have those conversations? What is your reason? What is your motive, your objective to want to have a conversation about any form of sexuality to a 6-year-old. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why people are so upset that a bill about not talking about sexuality. I don't get why you're so upset. Like, what is your object? And now I told you in the beginning that I initially thought we didn't need the bill. Like, what we're not talking about, it's not in the curriculum. We're not talking about, but the more I kept hearing from teachers of how badly they wanted to talk about some form and didn't understand why they couldn't, it just made me realize or think, why do you want to do this if it's not if it's not grooming? Like, what would be your objective of talking to a 6-year-old about sexual orientation and gender identity?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's weird to me. I mean, because here's my thing is that, I don't think that they're trying to groom in a way like they're trying to have sexual relations with the child. I also don't think that they're trying to like recruit them into being gay or whatever, although some might be. But I don't think that that's always the intention. But I do think that they want to talk about these things to make kids more amenable to it, to make more open to it, which is not their place to do. But to me, it's when I use that term, I'm talking about teachers who are doing that and trying to cut the parent out of the process, because that's what a groomer does. Like a groomer who actually wants to victimize a child, they make sure that they don't talk to their parents.
Yes.
And these school districts, like Chicago Public Schools, even in Detroit, California, they are and this comes even from the district, that they don't have to tell the parents. And in some cases, they can tell the parents if the child consents, but they don't have to tell the parents. And a lot of them are even encouraged to lie about it. So if a kid comes up to them saying, hey, I'm struggling with these feelings, or I'm confused about my gender or whatever, they'll go to a counselor, and the counselor will, a lot of times, they will groom them, or basically make them more or try to influence them in that direction, where a lot of these kids are going to grow out of it. Like 85% of them do, or maybe even more than that. And then others may may turn out that they are homosexual, but they're not necessarily the other sex. And so we're seeing a lot of this happening, and it may not be happening in every school, but at the same time, there are too many stories for me to think that laws like this aren't necessary. So I mean, I see, it's like every single week I see multiple stories coming out of teachers doing this with kids and teaching them this stuff. So in those cases, what else am I supposed to say that is? Yes, it may not be, like, I'm not going to call them pedophiles, because they're not pedophiles.
Right.
But they are trying to influence their minds. And to get them to think a certain way about that. And it's not their place to do that. That's for the parents to discuss with their children. Or to, at least, if you're going to do it, you at least get the parents' consent. In a lot of these districts, they're not even required to get a consent. Like, they'll say, we're going to teach these lessons, and if you don't want to do it, then you got to opt your kid out. And a lot of parents don't even see that part. So this happens. So when I see that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can see why somebody would call that grooming. I don't use that word just on everybody who disagrees, but so there are areas where it applies.
Right. And people also forget the other part of the bill is parental consent. It's not just, that's just one aspect. Like, you have to have parental consent. In Florida, we do, but people have there are ways around it, and not everyone does. And so I think the bill just solidified, this is what you're going to do. And if you don't have parental consent, these are the consequences. You need parental consent for anything. And my friend, she does not like the SEL. In Florida, to be honest, we have the most harmless SEL. Like, it's talking about bullying, say no to drugs. Like, it is so different from California, Chicago. The problem is, I'm not a psychiatrist. I cannot diagnose your kid. Like, I am a teacher. I am not trained in psychology to help them deal with these situations. And so that is the problem that I have with our SEL. And I know the other states are completely different from ours. But my friend didn't like that she was not told about that her son was feeling that he was on the verge of depression. So they felt like they can handle it because they're doing these SEL classes, doing these programs. And they told her kind of at the last minute when he was already kind of down in the dumps. And she, oh my gosh, she was like, he is no longer going to participate in any of this. And like I said, we have the least, our stuff is about bullying and depression, all of that. Again, the problem is we're not trained psychiatrists. We can't do it. You need parental consent. You need to talk to the parents about what is happening. If you see my kid is demonstrating depression in school, I need to know that.
Yeah.
I need to know that. I think that's pretty serious. So children are committing suicide because they are depressed. So there's many aspects to the bill apart from the K through the 3.
Yeah, and I think that gets swept under the rug because people want to focus on the LGBTQ stuff,
Yeah.
and because they know that like 90% of people are going to agree with the idea that parents should have a say,
Right.
they should be informed. What would you say to the people who say, well, what if there's a girl and she is having these feelings that she might be more male and goes to the counselor, but doesn't want to talk to her parents because they're against it and they might abuse her, or maybe they are abusive?
Well, see, now, okay, so on a high school level, students talk to us all the time about personal things. So what I do to cover myself is we have like a risk counselor. So we have our risk counselor and then we have our other counselors. So
Okay.
I send a thorough report to this risk counselor. So what he does with that information is on him. Now, he is typically supposed to contact parents and find a resolution, have justice circles to solve it in a way that we can't as educators, because he is trained to do that. So we are trusting him to do what he is supposed to be doing. So it's not just, so I don't know if they do this in other states or other districts, but we have a safe coordinator is what it's called. So that the teachers will report that situation to the safe coordinator, and the safe coordinator is supposed to handle it, whatever that means. But I know that they are supposed to be talking to the parents. That is what we already have in place. So whether they're doing that or not, I don't know, but that is what they're supposed to be doing. So teachers, that's what I don't understand. Like why are you bogged, especially if you're in Florida, we have safe coordinators. So if you're worried about getting rid of them not trusting you, they know that you're going to talk to a safe coordinator because you would tell them, whatever you're telling me, I just want you to know, I'm not going to talk to your parents, but I will talk to the safe coordinator, because they know the safe coordinator is the one to talk to the parents because they're trained to do that. I'm not trained to have those conversations with the students. I'm not trained to have that conversation with the parents. But what I can do is to talk to the safe coordinator who is trained, and he will talk to you, because I had a student that literally said he wanted to kill himself.
Ooh.
What am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
So luckily, the student, when he told me that, he was on the phone with his mom, and the mom heard him. And then I spoke to her, and then I gave it over to the safe coordinator, because I am not trained in that area. And so he was upset about school, and he made that statement. And so, but if a student makes that statement, lightly or not, I have to report it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, okay. So, I mean, and that sounds like what a lot of other states do. I mean, teachers are mandated reporters. So if it's
some don't, some don't.
Oh, really?
Because they feel like they are friends, they can handle it. I've known teachers like that. They feel like they can handle it. I don't want to get the student in trouble. Again, you're too close. You're not friends.
But they're supposed to. But they're
supposed to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when I hear that argument, I'm like, okay, well, if the kid's talking to a teacher and it looks like there might be some abusive situation there, then they're not going to talk to the parents. They're going to report it. And then maybe that goes to, I mean, in California, it might go to CPS or whatever.
Yes.
And then they handle that. So there's already mechanisms in place to address that.
Right.
But the vast majority of parents do not abuse their kids. I mean, let's just be real. The vast majority do not abuse their kids. It's just, it's not a thing like that. Not to downplay child abuse. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that most kids don't get abused by their parents. So there is no excuse for these schools to purposely try to cut the parent out of the situation. And so that's really what has a lot of people up in arms. And yeah, that is where the groomer conversation comes in. And yes, I do think that it is used way too liberally. I mean, there's calling Jenna Ellis a groomer because she was defending Disney, but I mean, it's goofy. But just because some people are being goofy with it doesn't mean that there isn't some legitimacy there.
Right. And people are just drawing the biggest, the what if could have, or what if, and what if this. But I'm like, that's not going to happen. Like, really, a 5-year-old is going to talk to you about his gender identity. Like, how often is that happening? So he's going to have a car. What if he breaks
They
up
might,
with
if you
his
introduce that
boyfriend?
concept to them at a young age.
What if she breaks up with her boyfriend and wants to kill herself? 6 years old, really? Like, come on! Like, the bill is for K-3.
Yeah, exactly.
So people are just really jumping the gun, and like, it doesn't apply to high school. We have things in place for that. Like I said, safe coordinators, all of that. We can have conversations with our students, and people also swear that we can't say anything about gay or talk about gay. I'm like, in high school, we have a gay alliance straight club. Like, that's all. They meet regularly. So their needs will be met. Like, we are not anti-gay in Florida. Our governor is not anti-gay. We have so many different types of gay and straight alliance club. There will be conversations had. The groups are led by teachers. So it's not like we cannot have a conversation to our gay and straight, our gay or bi, our transgender students. I've had transgender students in my class. And people are like, oh, what do you do? Okay, so she told me to call her by a different name, and I do. Not a big deal. I don't do the pronoun thing, but I don't purposely disrespect my student. So I will simply call her by the name she gives me. I'm not going to be, I'm just not, because I don't do the pronoun thing. I will simply call by the name she gives me.
Gotcha. So what do you think of the whole Disney thing? Like, all that stuff that's going on there, like with the government stripping them of their special status and all of that. What do you think of that whole conversation? Because I mean, there are some issues with Disney, but some people, love what the government did. Others are more, apprehensive about it. Where do you fall on that whole spectrum?
Well, I don't take issues for what he did. I take issues to why he did it. I think motive is everything. I think he has every right to do that. But if you're going to do that to Disney, you need to look at all these other companies as well, because there's plenty of people that are involved in things that they shouldn't. So I don't think there's anything wrong with these. So I just think it's the motive, the reason, which I did get flack, and people like, I thought you liked DeSantis. I do. Again, he is not above critique. Why can't I critique him? Because conservatism is not this tit for tat. It is your core belief. Like, why isn't that enough?
I don't get that.
Why isn't principle enough? Like, why are we have to win over the horrible left? Like, that your principles should be enough. So I'm like, okay, and I'm learning, because I'm like, okay, so it is a difference between being a Republican and being a conservative.
Yes, there is, Donique. Yes, there's a huge difference.
And people are connected to, and it just dawned on me, like, probably maybe a month ago. Oh, wait a minute, those two, because I'm fighting other Republicans, and I'm like, why are they this is not conservatism. They're like, yes, it is. And I'm like, then let me go back to the values of Prince. No, this is not. You're a Republican, so just say that. Do not call yourself a conservative.
Yeah. Well, and plus, not everybody on the right is a conservative either. I mean, you've got people who are right-wingers, you got people who are more populist types, and to be fair, a lot of them, you got a lot of new people who are new to politics, so they'll just say, "Oh, I'm a conservative," because they align more with what you and I believe.
Right.
But they're really more populist. But
right, and I kind of get it. I kind of get you were tired of losing. I get it. Yeah. I get it. So that's why I'm like, okay, let me not be too hard or too critical, because I get it. But the left is great at identity pop. Like, if you're going to do that, you better be freaking awesome at it.
Yeah.
And I think DeSantis is probably getting good at it. So.
Well, he's definitely better than a lot of the others. I mean, and
he is.
And I feel the same way. Like, if he had like come into office and maybe a month later did that, okay, fine, I don't care. But it's very clear that this was only because they.
Yeah. Also, it's clear.
Yeah.
And some people, they love it. They're saying he should do that, and his reasons are fine. And I'm like, is it really though?
That gets to a bad place, and that's why I'm concerned. I mean, to me, it's like, if this is about as far as people will let him go, and they won't let him go further, then okay, I still don't like it. Okay,
Right.
fine. Nobody adheres to their principles 100% perfectly. I get that. I also get that like you said, we're tired of losing. And the petty part of me does like seeing Disney get slapped.
Right.
But the thing is, they're not really getting slapped. They're going to renegotiate this, and they're going to do it quietly. DeSantis is going to do it quietly. They'll be fine. And nobody's going to say anything next year when they have their status back. And it's not that different from what they have now. So to me, it's just, it's more culture war, like feel good policy, because that makes us feel good. But realistically, they dropped in value by like $50 billion. The free market did that. The bad press did that. The government didn't do that. That was happening beforehand. So we already, at least for this particular battle, we already won. So the other thing was just more like, just beat the dead horse, I guess. But I mean, I'm not saying we won the war, but we won this battle. So to me, there was really no need for us to, sacrifice that principle. But at the same time, it just kind of makes me a little cautious. It's like when I see that, I'm like, okay, that's not horrible, but I am a little concerned about this one further. And honestly, I'm not, any leftist who says something about it, I'm not even listening to them. If they didn't say anything when their people went after Chick-fil-A and Masterpiece Bakery and other stuff, then you don't really care about this issue anyway. You just don't like that it's being done to you. But as somebody who is on the right, a conservative, I'm like, okay, I really hope that we're not going down a bad road here. We probably aren't, but to me, this is how it starts. So it's kind of one of those things that's why I spoke out so forcefully about it, because I want people to at least think about it. Even if they agree with it, just at least keep that in the back of your mind, okay? But this is about as far as we can let him go, because when I'm not even saying he wants to go further. I'm just saying this is how we need to be with our leaders. If you support DeSantis, if you support DeSantis, then you got to be able to tell him the truth too. Otherwise, you don't really support him.
Right. That's true. And I'm going to tell you, some people, I'm convincing my friends to vote for DeSantis, my Democrat friends. I always say Black people are super conservative. All of my Black friends are conservative. They don't vote that way. They do not vote that way. But every single thing about them, and I keep telling them, you are a conservative. They don't want to say the words, because when they think of conservative, they think of Candace. And I shouldn't have said her name, but you know what I mean. But so I have to, I'm a conservative, you like me, and I'm not, I don't, whatever, but you know what I mean. So, but the Disney thing, they're like, I was going to vote for him, but I don't know anymore, because people in Orlando, we love Disney. Like, I have friends that work in Disney. It's a staple in our community. It is who we are, Disney. And so I think that people don't really understand it, and they don't know how it's going to affect us, taxes, or just in general, or what that means. Are they going to raise the Disney tickets? Are they going to, so people don't know. So they're now skeptical of DeSantis because he did that.
So do you think this is going to hurt him politically, or?
Well, these were people that originally wasn't going to vote for him anyway, but he was doing so many great bills with the adoption, with the mentorship. My friend called me, who's very Democrat, and she's like, wait a minute, what? I like this. I like this about DeSantis. And she was like, I'm going to really consider, voting for him. And a lot of my friends, they cannot stand him, but because of these bills, and interestingly enough, they love the Parental Rights and Education. Once they read it, and once I told them about it, they're like, of course, this is a no-brainer. So everything that he was doing, boom, boom, boom. Disney hit, they're like, I don't know about him. I just think because it's the unknown that they don't know, and we
so he had a few steps forward, and then with this one, he one step back, maybe.
Right. And so I just told my friend that was like, I don't know anymore. I'm like, it's just they all do it. It's not a game, but it kind of is. They all do this, and so I think she understood from that point of view that both sides will basically are the same bird. It really is
unique in that. I mean,
yeah. But one coin of it is these are your values, and the other one isn't. So, but political is the same. It just looks differently.
Awesome. Well, this was an awesome conversation. I think we got a lot of more clarity on things.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that, like I was saying before, I think it's just important that we put these laws in their proper perspective. I mean, I kind of think that the parental rights in education would probably be a little bit more effective than the Stop Woke Act.
Absolutely.
Just because, there just isn't really
Mhm.
many ways to get around that. Like, you're either instructing little kids on sexuality and gender identity or not.
I don't see anything wrong with the bill at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. So, I mean, and also, I mean, people say, oh, well, DeSantis is just doing this in position himself for president. Of course he is. Like, this is what politicians do. I don't care. Is it good legislation? Is it good policy? That's all I care about. So, I'm sure he'll be, doing more things to piss off the left. I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking about it again.
He's going to win in November. He's going to win. People will vote for him. Trust me. Yeah. Even Democrats, they're lying if they say that. Trust the bills that they are beneficial, and especially my friends, I am going to convince them why they should.
Sure they're not going to vote for Nikki Fried?
He had the nerve to DM me and ask if I would vote for her, ma'am. Have several seats. She did. So I don't know if it was a generic message, but I'm like. And I was like, sorry, no, that is not happening. I am voting for her.
I would love to get a message from her. I would love to get a message from her. Oh my God.
The nerve. I showed it to your girlfriend and she laughed. I was like, she had the nerve to DM me.
Tell her to DM me. Tell her I'll vote for her.
And then we have Charlie Chris is trying to, he runs every few years. You lost before, you're gonna lose again. So yeah.
So he's like your Beto O'Rourke, basically.
Yeah. But I think Democrats will vote for him. They will. He's done too many great things for Florida for them not to.
Yeah. Well, on that note, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you until next? I'm sure we're going to be talking about this stuff as stuff goes on because there's a lot of stuff going on. And like I said, you're the only teacher I know, and you're everybody's favorite teacher. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, you can find me, of course, on Twitter, FavoriteTeach11. Also, I am on Instagram, but Instagram is specifically for my support group for parents of children with special needs, and that is PTPT no, sorry, I was getting confused with that. Is PTPT_Donique. So Peter Thomas _ Donique, and Facebook is private. And my online website is ptpt-orlando.net. So donations are always welcome to a worthy cause, and we offer resources for families. That's pretty much why we raise money, so that we can help navigate our families through their autism journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, and I'm looking forward to next time.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me.